Dapat ba hiwalay ang Facebook ng matatanda? Let's talk about that in this new Trying Hard podcast episode. Hi and welcome to a new episode of the Trying Hard with Lyqa podcast. And this particular episode is under yung ating mini-series called My Two Cents On, where I just share my thoughts, my opinions on a certain thing. And again, you can agree, you can disagree, we can agree to disagree. This podcast is here and actually for that very reason, and I'm just going to share my very biased thoughts dito sa konsepto na ito. Now, let me start off by saying that I know this is a joke. I know this is just, a throwaway statement minsan, but the way that it has come to my attention was actually through a bunch of young people I was hanging out with, and then again, as a joke, they were saying this na, sabi na dapat hiwalay ang Facebook ng matatanda. So, the way I feel na culture has shifted, again, being from the generation ng dial-up internet, mga naunang gumamit ng internet back in the days of the Wild Wild West. Ang napansin ko is before, the world will share kung ano yung nangyayari sa world sa internet. So it's usually that direction. So again, what happens in the real world gets shared on the internet. But now, more and more, I find that something would start out yung life niya in the internet, and then magpa-pervade siya or tatawid siya, magka-crossover siya to the real world. And that is what happened with this line, na dapat hiwalay ang Facebook ng matatanda. So again, narinig ko siya as a joke in the real world, more than I did online. Granted, naka-social media, kasi ako, lilo ako nung December. But again, nakita ko na siya na very common yung feelings ng certain people about this. And that is why I conducted an informal survey of sorts. So I put it up on Twitter. And sa Twitter, I asked, sabi ko nga, ito, quick survey lang for a podcast episode. Agree ka ba na dapat hiwalay ang Facebook ng matatanda? And 82% of people on Twitter said yes, ibukod sila. 18% said no. I asked the same question sa ating Trying Hard podcast community. So again, kung hindi ka pa part nito, you can still join us. It's a Facebook group, private group siya for all you tryhards out there. And looking at the result nung poll natin inside the Tryhard group or the Trying Hard podcast community, I couldn't be more proud of you guys because ang stats natin doon ay 50-50. 50% said yes, ihiwalay sila. 50% said no. Now, malaking bagay ba yung 82% versus 50%? Yes. Kasi yung 82%, ang dami nun. Ang daming tao ang gusto na ihiwalay ang Facebook ng matatanda on Twitter. But kayo, again, looking at 50-50, malaki na ang difference yan. Big deal na yun for me kasi what it says to me is that there's something about the tryhards, the people in my community that understand the things I'm going to say in this podcast episode, which is separation ng Facebook na matatanda, Facebook ng mga bata, can actually make things worse. And for that reason, I would say, hindi ako payag na ihiwalay ang Facebook ng matatanda. But that this is a very important conversation na kailangan natin pag-usapan. It speaks a lot about the current climate ng buhay, online and offline. And I've seen this happen more and more actually itong past few years, given yung demarcation ng people who say believe in fake news versus hindi, people who find memes funny and hindi, people who are struggling basically with the one thing na kung tutuusin ay solusyon ng lahat ng ito, which is digital literacy. And I want to frame it that way. Because when you understand that kadalasan, yung struggles natin with matatanda sa Facebook isn't a question of their age, but of their level ng digital literacy, you would understand na, okay, may part tayo sa pwedeng maging solution for this. Gusto ko kasi yung term na digital literacy kasi it brings to light yung another struggle that a lot of us may have more siguro yung mga tao na nasa educational system, no, which is may struggle naman talaga when it comes to literacy per se. And when we define literacy as an ability to read, diba, and understand, when it comes to digital literacy, ganun din. So, education ang gamot sa digital literacy. And it's close to my heart because I've been working on this for years now, trying to create short, shareable content, explaining things such as spotting fake news or looking for reputable sources when it comes to information online, digital literacy when it comes to scams, and etc. And even yung amount of information that you give out sa internet. And with my work dito sa field na ito, I noticed na totoo yun. Hindi lang mga bata ang nagsastruggle with this. With what happened sa pandemic na lahat ng mga matatanda, na puwersa sila. Diba? Na kahit ayaw naman nila mag-internet noon or wala naman silang pakialam noon, pero ngayon, that was the only way for them to reach their friends noong COVID. Natuto silang lahat. And I saw this firsthand kasi ganun din sa household namin. May mga tita ko, parents ko, even my grandmother na nag-turn to social media sa means for communication because of the pandemic. So, mas marami yung usage, sabihin natin, nila noong itong past 2 years. And dahil maraming gumagamit, again, lalabas na yung mga struggles pagdating doon. Kasi hindi naman sila lahat ready na gamitin yung internet. Now, i-acknowledge muna natin yung struggles ng ilan sa atin when it comes to interacting with older people sa internet. Hindi ko i-sugarcoat ito kasi maraming beses na akong naka-encounter din ng sabihin na natin na mas nakatatanda, boomers, no? Or even Gen X actually, who are combative online. But I'm also very realistic in saying that I've also encountered Gen Zs and millennials who are also like that, no? Naghahanap din ng away or mainit din ng ulo when it comes to interacting with people online. Marami sila. Mas marami minsan or mas marami madalas yung mga older people na mas susceptible sa fake news or mas argumentative or yun nga, iba yung atake lagi when it comes to the comment section. Pero tayo rin, di ba, pumapatol din naman tayo. Nagko-comment din tayo ng ganun paminsan-minsan. So, ang goal natin here shouldn't be separation but digital literacy for all. At the very least, when they engage online or they use social media tools or use the internet, wary lang sila, di ba? Aware lang sila. Kahit yun man lang, maibigay natin sa kanila. So, again, acknowledging the problem, tatry natin yung some of my thoughts regarding the possible solution. But for now, let's take a quick break. Alright, welcome back. No? So, again, no, dapat mahiwalay ang Facebook na matatanda. Ang aking opinion ay no. And here's why. No? Number one, I think that generations are stronger when they're built on top of each other. Ano ibig sabihin ko doon? When we cut off access to other generations, ang nangyayari is, hindi lang tayo nagiging, sabihin natin, safe doon sa sarili nating circle, but we also cut off yung possibility of learning from them. Now, it may be just because marami nga akong encounters with people from different generations, kahit face-to-face or online, na hindi maganda. And that is why I'm coming from this point. Pero I've gone through some of my worst experiences with boomers or people from even an older generation. I've heard them say the most atrocious things. I've seen them behave in the worst way possible. And I've harbored a lot of resentment for that generation or for certain people of that generation too. But siguro dahil nga may umidad na tayo ng konti, ang natutunan ko is that a lot of those experiences led me to be the person I am today. Now, I'm not saying that you should go through a similar trauma, no, para matuto kayo. But what I'm saying is that from every situation, and I've said this maybe a million times already. Everything is a learning experience, or at least everything can be a learning experience. From the good, you learn what to do. From the bad, you learn what not to do. And when we're in the same pool with people, kahit behaving badly, we tend to learn a lot from them. Kung hindi man kung ano yung gagawin, kung ano yung hindi natin gagawin para hindi tayo maging katulad nila. And sasabihin ko sa inyo na a lot of those experiences led me to making hard decisions and even writing on my journal kung ano yung mga people that I don't want to be. Nakita ko yung tendencies ko na, okay, may similarities kami itong person na to. Or sometimes they would even say it as a compliment sa akin na, uy, para kang nakikita ko yung kung sino ako sa'yo nung bata ka. Pero knowing who they are, parang sa akin, instead na encourage ako, may onting fear. Kasi naku, kung nakikita niya yung sarili niya sa akin, will I turn out to be like her one day? Like, may mga ganong experiences ako. So, dahil nakita ko kung paano sila, very aware ako na iwasan yung mga tendencies ko na maging katulad nila. Na wag ako mag-behave like them. Na every time I would do something, may self-check ako na wait lang, am I turning into this person already? And that is because I had access with them. So cutting them off means cutting off yung sarili natin from opportunities to learn from them. So that's one of the reasons why I think hindi dapat hiwalay ang Facebook ng matatanda. The second one is that cutting off yung generation na yun, they also lose the opportunity to learn from us. Now, you might tell me na, ayaw naman nila matuto di ba? Which is true sometimes, no? Pag may mga arguments ako sometimes with people sa comment section or sa DMs na they would say, kasi bata ka kaya ganyan. Or kasi, hindi ka makinig, parang ganun. O kaya, meron pa ngayon nagsabi sa akin na parang, pati daw parenting stuff, pinapayo ko na ako na daw magaling ganyan, hindi naman daw ako naging nanay. Yung mga ganong klaseng mga advice. I understand that. Meron talaga mga ayaw makinig, lalo na if they feel like wala ka pang napapatunayan or yun nga, hindi naman daw ako nanay, so bakit ako magpapayo sa pagiging nanay? To which I countered, by the way, na pero naging anak po ako, so I'm coming from that perspective na as an anak. But yeah, there are people like that na hindi talaga makikinig. Pero one thing I also noticed is that people will listen to the same message if it comes from a different speaker. Ano ibig sabihin ko doon? Ulitin ko yun people will tend to listen, sabihin natin, to a message if it comes from a different messenger. Nakita ko kasi, sa role ko rin as sabihin natin, content creator, there are parents sometimes who hear the same thing from their actual children. Pero pag narinig nila sa children nila, akala nila reklamo lang or hindi nagmamatter. Pero when they hear people outside the family, people like me, saying the same thing. And I've seen this happen so many times already. They would message me or share their own stories. Sabihin nila na parang, Coach, narinig ko yung sinabi mong ganito. Sinasabi rin ng anak ko yan pero hindi ako nakikinig. Kaya nung sinabi mo na, napaisip ako, totoo pala. And that's the reason why I can't let go of older people, no matter how, sabihin natin, contrary yung beliefs nila sa akin or kasi sometimes they just need an opportunity na makinig sa people outside their households to spare the children inside their households of a similar fate. By sharing, and I've learned this again through the years, by being vulnerable, sharing some of the bad experiences I've had actual people, actual parents tell me na, Coach, buti na lang sinabi mo yan kasi like we're having that same or a similar struggle within our household and it's given me a different perspective. So cutting them off, it means losing our opportunity to share what we know with them. Pwede kasi silang hindi nakikinig sa mga bata sa loob ng bahay nila pero nakikinig sila sa mga taong nasa labas. And dati, ang ibig sabihin nun, anak ng kamag-anak, pamangkin, anak ni ganyan, anak ni ganon. Pero ngayon, with the bigger world and with social media, I could do that same thing with a parent who lives miles away, even halfway around the world, and still, hopefully, mabigyan sila ng different insight. So, sa akin, honestly, ang paghihiwalay ng Facebook ng matatanda, it can do more harm than good. Idagdag pa natin yung third point, which is it creates echo chambers. If you're still unfamiliar with the term echo chambers, basically, group of people who practically believe the exact same things. And they feel strengthened, empowered. They feel they're correct. Kasi everyone in their circle is saying the exact same thing, dismissing what's going on outside. And these echo chambers, I've found, also nangyayari minsan napakaliit ng effect nila in the real world. Kasi they think na they're doing much, but actually in the context, dahil hindi na sila lumalabas, wala rin sila masyadong nagagawang real life or real world impact or good. So even for that reason lang, hindi ko gusto talagang mahiwalay ang Facebook ng matatanda. Na-embolden tayo when we meet people who are exactly the same as us. And when I started yung Trying Hard podcast community, actually ang thinking ko nung nagpa-poll ako was, siguro majority of them would say na hindi sila agree na dapat hiwalay ang Facebook na matatanda. I was actually looking at the stats, tas inisip ko, naku, dapat ang expected ko, ang sagot nila dito, no, huwag ihiwalay. Kasi they should be a lot like me. They should agree with me. But, like I said, kanina babalikan natin yung figures. The fact na 50-50 yung lumabas sa Trying Hard podcast community and pantay siya on both sides, it became an encouragement to me dito sa episode na ito. That this kind of separation, this kind of disagreement could actually be a sign of a healthy community. Kasi in matters na hindi naman life or death exactly, or in matters na makaka-feed ng dagdag na conversations or difficult conversations to be had, maganda na merong opposing views. Doon tayo nakakapag-usap, doon tayo natututo, doon tayo nakakapag-share, doon din natin na-realize if tama ba yung unang thought natin or if willing tayo to change. So, like I said kanina, I couldn't be more proud of you na 50-50 tayo. And I'm a little bit proud of myself din in changing what I thought. Kasi akala ko nung umpisa, naku, dapat puro no ang sagot, pero hindi pala. It is also a personal realization sa akin. Na even in the way that we build our communities online, sameness isn't the end goal. It's coexistence, it's unity in diversity that we need to aspire for. So yun, exciting stuff for 2023. I know this is an odd episode to get started with, pero I feel like it could help set the tone for the restoration, healing, and conversations, no matter how difficult, that we need to have this year. Marami pang kailangan mag-grow. Lahat tayo, especially in engaging sa social media, seeing its impact, seeing the good and the bad it could do. And I'm just happy that I get to do that with you. Okay? So again, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, or if you're just trying to find someone to journey with in life, welcome na welcome kayo dito. Again, don't forget to follow the podcast. For those of you who got a copy of the planner that I launched, no, biglaan yon, walang masyadong teaser, pero I launched it on the 28th yata or 29th, and right now we've already sold I think about 500 copies. So thank you sa inyong lahat for supporting that project. It makes me braver to venture into even more things with you. Salamat mga try hard, and as we always say, don't forget itong mga bagay nito. Dream big, work hard, start now, and don't let anyone calling you a try hard keep you from shooting for the stars. Kaya niyan, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!